Ah, okay. It's Monday, and it is time for what is usually, but not always, relaxing painting with Dice and Dungeons. Today is going to be okay. You lurk away. I'll do a flip. I'll flip this little piece of wood here. There. This is at least not dangerous. And I'm mostly going to be not painting today because I've been working on these dragonkin. And this dragonkin, which is going to be a black one, because I've done blue, green, red, and bronze, mostly green. The green's almost done. Is missing part of the guard on its sword, and I'm going to just snap that off and replace it with one from another model. And the hilt is gone because I broke that off. And in this one, I was doing really quite well with it, and it was never had a hilt, so I need to fabricate some of those. But I just knocked this over, and it fell down like that, and the sword hit and popped off and went who knows where. I mean, we're looking at an inch long, eighth of an inch wide piece of gray plastic that should have been really easy to find, but wasn't. And so this toothpick here, it's going to be a sword. Yep, it is. No, it will, without a doubt, become a sword. And let's see. Yeah, it's a little bit narrow there, so I thought about starting there, and I marked it very carefully, but that's not going to work. It needs to be wider. Oh, duh. Starting on this end, I'm using the wide end, and I'm sanding it down. And these two marks on here, this is where it meets the hilt. Okay, here. But I've got a little piece of this left, so it's only going to be this. So this whole thing is going to become sword width. Okay, which is about what it is right there. So I'll be kind of sanding it down here. Then this will come to a point there, and then I'll bevel the edges and make it thinner. And then these all have like this blood channel in it, and I'll try to do that too. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And then for the hilts, I've got this round toothpick, and the hilts are about that long. So this all needs to be sanded or filed down up to where the palm comes in here. And then if you can see it, there's like a flare. It flares out to a palm. And we'll see how that goes. I may end up then with two complete models, or I might not, depending on how this goes. I've done swords from toothpicks before, but never one quite this long and quite this complicated because of the blood channel thing. Now let's see. The other thing is that, okay, I was looking at this, and this particular sword has a little flaw right there. There's a little point that's come up that needs to be filed off. So I'm just going to do that first because, I've already broken the sword, so how much more can I do, right? How much more damage can I create? So this guy was almost done. Just almost done until I knocked it over. And part of the skill in knocking things over, it's not 100% skill. Okay. The knocking over has to be aided and abetted by the layout here. And what I have been doing which you should not do in your own workshop or painting area or studio. What you should not do is what I do, which is to put the things that you need to reach over so that you go, knock stuff over when you reach the stream deck, and I have to push the buttons for break and stuff. Hi, Vivian. So I put that over there. That's way in the back so that I can reach over everything and knock over paint and glue and models and stuff on the way. So it's important to do that. Don't do that in your own studios or painting areas. But I'm doing that here because, it's just the nature of things here. It's the space that I've got. And it's not necessarily being careful about stuff. Anyway, I'm going to work on the sword blade first, and then I'm going to work on the hilts. And then I will figure out how to attach them. I've got some contact cement that I've used before because it grips right away, which is nice, but it tends to be flexible. And I've got some 5-minute epoxy, and the downside of that is that you have to hold something very still for several minutes before it holds. What I want to do first is, this is about the width of the blade. So if I look at an intact sword, which I haven't broken off yet, okay, right about there, that's about the width of the blade. So I want this whole thing to be that big. To attempt to file this, we'll use the square one. This wood is fairly soft, so it goes quickly. See, already it goes that fast. So the thing about that, since it goes so fast, since it's soft, is to be pretty careful and check the work often. Too far, because one can take wood away, but it's hard to put it back. So you can see now that that's pretty much the same width all the way across. It's really close to where I want it. And now what I want is to put a point on it here. And that goes very fast. I compare it to an intact sword. Well, it's got a point. Such a deal, huh? And it's more or less symmetric, and who's going to know? Who's going to know any better? Okay, now it needs to be, the whole thing needs to be thinner and needs to be beveled on the edge. So work on making it thinner. I'm going, that's the mark there of where it gets cut off. Okay, and then we cut off there, so I'm gonna try to get the thickness of this whole thing all along. Third blade is pretty thin, but then it's got like a cutting edge on it, so what we're doing now, I'm looking at this, the thickness still a little bit too thick. So I'm not going to start beveling the edges yet, but really soon. One thing I'd learned too is if you get this too thin, you know, this is not ironwood or something, right? This can get pretty fragile as well. Okay, now I'm going to start a little bit. Start beveling the edge. I don't know if you can see that, but it's beveled. I might use sandpaper for this. I'm going to sheet of sandpaper. And I'm just going to carefully, so I don't snap it, or not, do it this way. You can't, I have to be really careful because I don't want to snap this now that I've got it sort of in the right shape, you know. Basically, I'm getting rid of the square edge and kind of rounding it off a little bit to make it look like it's, you know, beveled like the other sword, like the molded one, the printed one. Okay, to take these off so I can see it close a little better. Yeah, so this is, you know, what can I say? Like, woodworking 000 or something. A little side too. This is going to be a little thicker and a little less cutting edgy, let's say, than the printed versions. It's because of the material I'm working with. Not wanting to go too far and break it. Of course, I had nicely marked this earlier, where I wanted it to cut and end, but in the process of filing it, of course, the mark is gone, so I'll have to remeasure. So this edge is coming along pretty well, this side. This might be the top. Okay, whichever one looks better will be the top. I have to see how this needs to be. So I'm going to about here. Mark that with a pen, but I'm not. The channel down the center of the sword, that's a real challenge. I mean, I can put a groove in it, that's okay, but to keep it straight all the way down the center, try. We'll just see what happens. It's just starting to look sorty. It will be, I think, a decent replacement. If I can get it to hold on, I'll probably end up using epoxy, and that'll be a pain because I'll get to hold it for a while. Sitting around here, and I have the luxury of having like hours to just play with this little piece of wood to make it look sort of like a replacement sword. It would have been easier just to print a new one, I think, and to repaint it, but model restoration. We're doing minifig restoration work here. Hello, Brogger. I am making a replacement sword blade for the one I busted by knocking this model over. Just as I was finishing painting it, I knocked this whole thing over by reaching across, and it fell down, and the sword blade, which is supposed to be there, okay, snapped right off and disappeared. It went to the world of lost socks, I think. At least that's where it seems to be. It's gone. Looked everywhere for it and could not find it. So I am whittling toothpicks today, and then after I'm done with that, as you notice, this one's missing a hilt, and so is this. I was already planning to just do one hilt, but I broke off another hilt, and now I need to make two. So I'm creating one sword blade and two hilts out of toothpicks today. So that's why we're whittling toothpicks on Relaxing Whittling with Dyson Dungeons on Monday. So after I succeed in doing this, because with great confidence, moving forward with great confidence, I'll be able to get this done, and that they'll look okay, and I'll be able to attach them without too much problem, too much trouble, too many problems, that kind of thing. I'll actually do a little bit of painting today if I feel up to it, and that will be to finish the green one. And then this last one will be black. And then I've got this one, and this one, the sword never printed at all, nor did the hilt. So it never had a weapon. And what I'm going to do with this one is there's a guard there that needs to be taken off and used to replace the guard that's missing on this. And then I am going to file away the remnants of this sword, so it will be doing a huzzah with its hand. Yay, right? Huzzahing. It'll be huzzahing. Anyway, that's the plan for today. We'll see how it goes. So I've got this pretty well shaped. Okay, I'm really quite pleased with it. It's a little bit thick, as these toothpick swords almost always are, compared to the original, but it's pretty well shaped. And now I need to decide whether to do the blood channel thing on it or just not. And I'm going to practice on this side of the toothpick. And I'm going to try this. And there's two ways I can do this. One is to take like this pointed file here. Oh no. Yeah. Don't you just love that? Is that a Monday thing, isn't it? Isn't it terrific? Well, yeah, I guess it, I can empathize with that, because it's like if something's going to go wrong, it just keeps going wrong. I think this is kind of working. If I do it really carefully, little bits at a time, and keep it down the center, it puts an indentation in. Okay, I'm going to try that for real here. Not really deep, but it is there. I think you'll actually be able to see it. Of course, there's variations in the wood right there. So it was moving along pretty smoothly, and then not so much. But there is now a groove down the center of this blade. There wasn't one before. And it's kind of hard to see on the wood, but it's there. Do one on the other side, just to tempt fate. Be patient. Move slowly. Okay, so what we have here is a slightly imperfect, but not terrible, reproduction the sword blade. Now I need to measure it again, because I sanded off my measure. Get a little pen here. That measure's still there. That's where it touches. If you can see that at all, that little black line is where it touches the hilt. And that is where it broke off, right there. Okay, so there's a complication. It didn't break off at a right angle. It broke off at a slight angle. Try to, yeah, I really should take the magnets out of the bottoms of these somehow. This I need to, oh, and it's broke. Oh, the fill is right there. This is just at an angle. To make it as close to a right angle as I can. When I cut off the wooden blade, it's not going to match that angle. Touching up the frill later. That's just paint. That should be easier to work with than a toothpick. Okay, so there is a better surface to work with. I think I would rather have the sword be a little long rather than a little short. I'm going to cut it off. Oh yeah, this is good. Hold it, because as I cut it, the odds are that it will go flying and it will join its original somewhere in Lost Sock Universe. Cut it at an angle that probably would have matched the other one perfectly, but it didn't anyway. So try to right angle this as well. Okay, so now the next trick is to take this sword and attach it there. Yeah, I should have left the angle, right? Yeah, that matches up pretty well. Yeah, so the thing is I need holding it, it needs to be like straight this way, in that it continues the sword, and then it needs to be straight this way. And both of those straightnesses need to be held until the adhesive that I use sets up enough to hold it on its own. So that means getting like a hand cramp or something while I hold that in place. I don't know what's going on there. It's like it's not quite flat. I'm thinking, once it's painted, there'll be like a little gap there. I mean, I can't make that go away. It's like this little gap there, because the edges are like rounded or something. But at least it'll look like there's a sword attached. So I'm tempted, the contact cement will just grip right away, which is nice, and it kind of fills in the crack. It tends to blob up. The other thing, though, is that once it's painted, see what I mean? I mean, this doesn't look bad. Yeah, I think I'm going to use the contact cement, just because I don't feel like holding it there forever. Sure enough. Mix some epoxy here. Do its 5-minute epoxy. Is I'm going to just let it sit here for 4 minutes, so that I only have to hold it for like 2 minutes, right? To hold it for like 2 minutes. That's a lot. That's shorter than 5 minutes, and it's not quite as awful. Instead of having to hold something still. After I get this sword on and it looks like it's holding, I'll go yay and try not to knock it over. No, this is just actually too dangerous. I'm going to take it off. of this, because if it falls, it isn't going to fall as far. I'll put it back on there. Paint. Sink this stuff. So that's like 10 times more than I need, because I just need a dot, you know, the tiniest little dot there. But it's hard to get out. It's hard to squeeze out less than that. So it'll just be a little blob of epoxy there that'll be kind of wasted. That's almost done anyway. Okay, so now I get to wait. Now you get to watch epoxy set. Instead of watching paint dry, you get to watch epoxy set for a couple of minutes, during which time I'm going to try to move some of these things slightly out of the way so that the odds of yet more messing, disastrous stuff is minimized. There's been a rearrangement to the workbench here. We now have little shelves. I'm not sure where they came from. They must have belonged to some piece of furniture that's not here anymore. And these little shelves, they're up about, they're like this. And now it doubles the amount of surface area, because now there's space underneath to store things that don't get used very often. Or if they do, they're just, you know, kind of in the way. I've got my brushes and stuff under there. And then other things that were taking up workbench space are up higher. And anyway, yeah, we now have like 2.25 square feet more of surface area on the workbench. Just setting up fairly quickly. See how much I need? That's it. A tiny little bit, that little dot of epoxy is all I needed, and I mixed all of this. That is not needed. The thing about the epoxy is that, you know, once it sets, it holds really quite well. You know, it's really strong, but it doesn't really grab. Okay, like the contact cement. If I were to put this on both sides, like that, and then touch them to each other, it grabs onto itself and it holds. This doesn't. So I can hold this here, but if I let it go, it's just going to sag. And I have to hold this for like 3 minutes. I mean, it doesn't have any grip until it's almost completely set. Now I'm counting slowly to 400 or 360 or whatever, 300, right? 5 minutes. I need 3 minutes, so that's 180. And I'm up to like 45. And there's this temptation to let it loose too soon. Like I'm tempted to do right now. And then it does that. It's like it was never held on in the first place. I need to hold it closer to the tip so that I can see that it's lined up. Okay, now I'm going to count to like 120. 5, 6, 7. You can count with me. 10. Yeah, 100 more to go. $40. And what I want to do is hold this until it's on there, and then it should still be, there'll be a little bit of give, so that if it's not lined up along the length of the blade, I'll be able to make some tiny manipulations. So it's been like 1 minute. A quarter. 1 1/3. I've talked about thirds and the infinities of threes before. That's always fun, but I'm not going to do that now because I'm still counting. I'm going to have to go to like 3 minutes. If I let this go now, it'll just droop. And I want it, if it's straight along this way, you know, it's getting close, and it's pretty close. It's pretty close that way. But it needs to be supported yet for a while. Almost. It's getting really close to holding on. So like another minute. Gentle support. Yep, counting out 3 minutes is pretty not interesting. You know, what are the odds that this is going to stay on here through the painting process? Ooh, that's really not good. That needs to go this way. Oh. The final alignment here as it's setting. I don't want to mess with it too much. I break the bond, but I also don't want the sword like pointing in a totally different direction than the base of the blade. This is actually going to take, you know, it says 5 minutes, and it's kind of holding, but it's still going to take a while before it's solid and doesn't droop. So it's not perfect, okay? But if you look at it, you know, it's kind of lined up there. It's pretty much lined up here. It's, you know, I think I did an okay job of replacing this thing that I snapped off for no reason other than I wasn't careful. It was one of those classic reaching over. It was on this stand, and I knocked it over. It's a little top heavy, and went, and the sword blade just popped right off. So if I were to test this, it's still a little tacky, right? Which means that it can still move around a little bit, which I don't want it to do, but it's starting to hold pretty firm. Okay, that direction looks good. This direction, sagging just a little bit. Always have a little gravity issue, right? Even though this toothpick weighs probably next to nothing. Gravity, the universal force of falling. Falling is relative, of course. You fall to earth, but maybe it's the earth coming up to you. There's always that. We talked about that in high schools, about gravity, which is really falling. Yeah, it's getting there. It's still tacky, it still moves a little bit, but it's holding pretty firm. See, if I were to poke this, you can see it's not hard. It's still like... Nobody's here. We have the dogs are greeting a visitor. I have to say that I did at least an A-, maybe a solid A on this sword. It's even got a blood channel in there. That's not too bad. It looks pretty straight. The width of the sword looks pretty good across the top. The height from top to bottom matches the base. It's a little bit off where it's connected there. It's not perfect. The epoxy seems to be gripping enough so that I can let this go soon and not poke it. Still getting a little bit of this. If I hold it like this, it droops a little bit. It might be better this way because there's more surface area here by like three times over compared to this way to counteract gravity. But you can see if I hold it like this, it starts to move just ever so slightly. I'm gonna let that set. See, I can't lay it down like that. It will wiggle that way, but I need to set it down in order to get on with something else. Hope that the epoxy does its job and holds. It's getting pretty stiff. It doesn't really get hard. I mean, really, like, it takes a better part of a day for it to be as hard as the plastic. So I'm going to start working on hilts. Okay, these are not very long. They're about like this long, and there's a pommel at the end, which is the same, pretty much the same diameter as this whole toothpick. So what needs to be done, this is now cylindrical rather than flat, so that makes it just a little bit more challenging. Now the blade is it's going to sag, just wants to just sag a little bit. Is that I need to file this down. See this? It's a little bit bigger than I want it in terms of diameter, and then I want it to go up to about here. And then at that point, it flares up to. So these might be a little bit more difficult than the swords. We'll find out. And these toothpicks are a little harder. The wood is a little harder. Need is, and they make these, okay, is a little bitty miniature lathe. They make them for modeling and for watchmaking and stuff. But you could take a toothpick this big and put it on the lathe and just very carefully round it down to the right diameter. But I don't have one of those, and I'm not going to invest hundreds of dollars in it just to make a couple of hilts or a couple of hilts. This is going to be maybe a little rougher than I'd like it, but you know, it will probably look better than not having a hilt. At least that's what I'm hoping. How is this holding up? Okay, it's sagging just a little bit. Not too bad, and this orientation up here is really pretty good. So, you know, I could push it up a little bit, but gravity's taking its toll. Anyway, yeah, so this toothpick's a little bit harder. Using flat files to make something round. I'm just trying to get the diameter kind of close to where I want it. And then I'll work on the pommel. If I can get most of it the right diameter, there, right about there is where I'm aiming. Then I can start flaring up the pommel. Surface here. This is my slow motion bake lathe, rolling it on the surface. I need to go a lot deeper on this end. I'm I'm just going to be a little more assertive in the filing right along here, which is where the pommel will start to flare up. I think I might use the contact cement on these pommels rather than epoxy. At least I'm going to try that, I think, because there's two of them, and just holding them in place it's just going to be a real nuisance. I meant hilts. Yeah. Whatever I said, it wasn't really the right thing to say. But what I can say is that by taking away the wood, it's getting closer to the diameter that I want. How this is going to end up looking, but it can't be terrible. These get pretty, yeah, it's pretty skinny, so I have to take the whole thing down a little bit further, but it's staying kind of round. It's getting smaller in diameter. There's two little rings on these. I don't know if you can see them here, but here and here there's little raised ridges. I'm not going to be able to replicate that. It's just that I will just say right out that is not going to happen. So these will look a little different than the others. I could paint a little ring around it, but it's not going to be raised up like that. Doing in terms of length. Actually a little bit long, which is okay. I can always file the end down a little bit. Making something smaller is a little easier than making it longer. Yeah, I should be chatting about something while I'm doing this, because this is pretty dull. But I can't think of anything really to talk about. So yeah, nothing's coming to mind. So this is going to be Monday, right? This is going to be whittling toothpicks and not having anything to talk about, and what's this guy holding up? Yeah, it's drooping a little bit. And there's not much I can really do about that. Yeah, I mean, the epoxy is getting set up about as much as it's going to get set until it hardens, and unless I prop that up somehow with great precision, which I'm not going to be able to do. It's just, it'll be what it is, and it'll be okay. I'm declaring it adequately. So the sword hilt is coming along here. It's getting, the diameter is being reduced. Let's see how this compares to the real model. Yeah, it's getting pretty close. Getting closer. And I'm doing it very slowly because snap it off and then have to do this all over again. How am I doing on time? I've used up an hour. Okay, I was kind of planning to go until maybe around noon, and it might go a little longer than that because this seems to be slow and tedious. So this is slow and tedious Monday. Making very, very careful eye measurements here by just looking at it and saying, how does that look? And I'd say, oh, I don't know, it looks okay, I guess. You know, could be okay. Guys, so now this next bit, this flares up. Okay, this, where this is indented here, you know, the pommel is a larger diameter than the hilt. And it doesn't have a square edge, it has a beveled edge. So now I need to bevel that. I have like a triangular one here. This might work. I want to, this little edge here, that's a 90-degree angle. I want that beveled, but I don't want it cut into the hilt below it. Keep an angle on it, just so that it's, if anything, it's kind of rounded. You just don't want it to look like a square edge. You know, I'm not going to match the original perfectly, but at least it'll give that impression, at least, of being, yeah, I mean, it's just giving the impression. I'm just rounding off the edge, you know, so it doesn't just look like a block at the end. Yeah, I'm not matching the angle quite perfectly. And then when I cut it off, I'm going to cut it off further back and then file down to it because the pommel itself is kind of rounded on the end. I'm going to give myself wood to work with there. Yeah, that's looking okay. Just smooth this out a little bit because it made a little bit of channel, a little channel between the pommel and the hilt. See how this looks. So this is going to go there. This goes like inside the hand right there. Okay, and it's a little bit long. So no, actually it's really pretty good. Let's even off the end there. So what I'm going to do next is I need to cut this off without making a disaster of it. So I'm going to give myself plenty of room. I'm going to cut it way back here, okay, and then file my way back to where it belongs. In cutting it, I might end up with a splinter. It might crack. There's lots of things that can go wrong. So I'm going to leave extra wood. I can file down to it, which will be a little bit of a challenge because I'm going to be holding this tiny little bit of a thing. Oh, there's a toothpick. See how this end turned into that? I'm going to have to do that one more time. Okay, so this end here, okay, needs to be made to look more like that. So I'll be filing it down and kind of rounding it off. There's a lot to be filed off. I gave myself plenty of wood to work with, so I'll just start making it smaller and hopefully not breaking it. Well, I could have cut it off. I probably could have cut off closer to the edge, but I take a chance, right? Because with persistence and time and dullness and boringness, sorry, this is pretty dull here watching me do this, but eventually it gets shaped the way it should be shaped. Yeah, I got about a third of it already, and I just keep going at it. The other toothpick, the sword toothpick, is a lot softer than this wood. These round toothpicks are just harder. Okay, well, it stopped sagging, so that looks okay. These round toothpicks are a lot harder, and so they file a little more slowly. I'm going to start rounding it off now because this is, you can see it's kind of rounded. It's not flat on the end. Could be, yeah, the file's just easier to, I was thinking of trying to do sandpaper, but this is just easier. It's going faster. A little bit easier to control. Start rotating it because it's getting close to where I want it. and it needs to be kind of symmetric. Yeah, this is really close. So now I'm going to be sort of rotating it to make sure that it's symmetric, like there's a point there that isn't. Yeah, this pommel is going to be a little fatter than the other ones, but I just know that if I keep at it, I'll probably make it too small. Let's compare it to the other one. You can see, yeah, I mean, you can see the differences, the major differences, the angle here, the bevel, and I'm not able to do much about that without carving into it more. Just try to make this a little less thick. Well, you'll be able to tell that this is not the same as the original. But, sometimes, the 3D mini models, they print differently and all. They don't all have to be identical swords, right? That's my claim. Now I'm working on symmetry here as I rotate it. Make sure it looks kind of the same from all the different directions. And then I'm going to use the contact cement and stick it on. And we will have a complete sword. Because the blade is there. The blade's holding up pretty well. So I'm going to hold this up to it. And that's going to be the pommel. It's going to go right there. And it won't look exactly the same, but it will be really close. And this whole thing should be just a little bit thinner. And I'm not sure I can do that now that I've taken it. Now that I've got it small, I cut it off. So there. Yeah, I mean, it looks pommely. It looks more pommely than like a toothpick, so I think that'll work. So let's try the contact cement bit. At least for this, I think it'll work okay. It would work better there it is, if I could find it. I have to find where I left it. This stuff is really viscous. Okay, so what I need to do is I can just touch this end to it. That's not a problem. And here's the remnants of my sword toothpick. Take some of this. And I'm going to put it in the spot where it will contact. And that's the point. It's called contact cement. So it has to have a contact on both sides. There's some. I'm just going to touch this to it and pick some up. And hopefully that will be enough to make contact with the contact, the other contact. And you just let it set there for a bit, like a minute or two, and then put the two ends together. And the thing, it grips pretty nicely. See? Yeah, grip. And there's still enough little give that I can do a little bit of alignment. It never really sets up hard. It stays a little flexible. Okay, that's a little downside to it, but it holds. Okay, so look at that. That's what I had, that little gray area. And I added a hilt and a pommel and a blade. And it's not perfect, but once it's painted, and if you look at it from a distance, which you will, you're going to look at it from a distance, it will look like it's holding a sword. Yay. Okay, so there is that. Step that aside, and now I need to make another pommel for this one. And the other thing I need to do is, if you'll notice, part of the guard is missing underneath, is this one has a guard that I'm going to break off and attach to the bottom of that. And maybe I can do that now. Maybe I can use the contact cement for that. Let's see if that works. I need tweezers. And I want to break this off right down at the base. There. So I have the piece I need. Huh. Oh, little infinitesimal little bit of a thing. So I'm going to touch some contact cement to the bottom of this. Need some fresh stuff. This stuff is setting up. I tried this once before on one that I broke, and it sort of worked and sort of didn't. It was really difficult to get it in there and line it up. And I ended up just painting it. The paint is an adhesive, as I have mentioned several times. And the paint actually, since this is such a tiny little bit of a thing, the paint was actually sufficient to hold it in place. It's way over here, because if I drop it, I would very much like to be able to find it again. The thing is, it's in a very awkward place under here that is extremely hard to reach. This one is much thicker than the other one. It's almost like it's not the same. But at least it's there, so you can see its presence. To be lined up, sort of. Amazing how you can't get there from here. Okay, that's closer. Say that that's almost, but not quite where it needs to be. It's really close though. If I can just get it to adhere, you know what I mean? If I can just get it to like stick, then the paint, when I paint it, will actually hold it, will actually cement it more in place. It will hold it better. Okay, that is don't mess with it anymore territory. Okay, it's not perfect, but if you look at it from most angles, you can see that the guard on the hilt is present. And you can see that it's not lined up, but it's way close enough to not be messed with anymore. Now I need to make another hilt, okay? Celebrating the success of this sword. Okay, the hilt is a little thick, but you know, it is that. I'm going to go back to this round toothpick. It's here. And go back to what I was doing before, which is seeing this diameter here, the narrow point diameter. I don't have my big chat screen today. Let me see if I can get it to work. When was the last time I hydrated? Hi, Husk. Wow. Here I go. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, I'm doing whittling today. I'm going to see if I can. Okay, well, there we go. The workbench got rearranged. There's the mouse. There's the chat window. Thank you for, you redeemed a whole 100 viewpoints just to make me drink some chat, some coffee. Hey, welcome. Sorry I hadn't been watching the chat window. It worked. I am so happy I did something. Every once in a while, I can get something to work in the studio kind of thing here. And I moved the chat window over to the other screen and made it big enough that I can almost read it without my glasses on. So yeah, being old, since this is the first time you're in chat, welcome to the chat room, and thanks for joining what is usually relaxing painting with Dice and Dungeons, but today is relaxing whittling toothpicks with Dice and Dungeons. I'm going to show you how this worked. This is what. Oh, okay. I have to get there. This is what it's supposed to look like. This is what the sword printed looks like. I broke the blade of the sword, by dropping it, and broke the hilt by doing the same, and have now fabricated a hilt and a sword blade that look kind of like the one on the original model. And I have the hilt missing on this one. It just never got printed. And so I'm going to carve another one and maybe even do a little better job. And then, depending on how long that takes, I'd like to finish this. I almost came really close to finishing this. I just need to paint. Basically, I need to paint the sword and the base, and then the green one will be done. And then I'll be doing this one. This one will be a black dragonkin, because I have a blue and a red and a bronze dragonkin. Trying to do all the families here, and the green, and then the black, and then I've got an extra one. And this extra one, the sword never printed at all. So I'm actually going to file the sword away. Just going to make it disappear. And he'll be just raising his arm and cheering everybody on. And I have no idea what color that will be. But I need to do yet another one of these... I need to do another hilt. So I'm taking this toothpick, like I did the last time, and I'm filing down the fat end to be the same diameter as the small end, and then I will try to get the pommel on, and this will come out to look, maybe better, maybe not, than the first one. But at least it has a weapon now, and it didn't after I managed to break off those pieces. One thing I discovered is that the PLA, which we use behind us, the PLA printers, which we've been using for the dungeon tiles, that plastic is a little more forgiving. It's actually pretty strong. The rosin printer, which we now have, that we print the minifigs on, let's just say they're fragile. They are brittle. And I discovered their brittleness, their ability to break easily by breaking them. Yep. It wasn't like I was experimenting. It was like I was being careless. So I was told, I could just print another one, but you broke it, so you fix it. And so I am fabricating replacement parts from toothpicks. I'm showing off my toothpick filing skills here. I've made actually several. We purchased minifigs. We used to purchase them before we started printing them ourselves, and I have fabricated maybe 4 or 5 little swords and daggers of blades that have broken off and could not be found, because when they break, they go, I don't know, like this one I dropped. It was on the stand and I knocked it over, and it hit the cardboard. It wasn't even the hard surface. It's kind of cushioned. It landed on the cardboard surface and went into another dimension. The dimension of, where things go that you know you didn't throw them away. It's like socks disappearing, that kind of thing. That's the classic, right? The lost sock land. An entire sock disappears in the dryer. Maybe what happens is like the sock just totally disintegrates and ends up in your lint filter, and that doesn't make any sense at all, because there's no way an entire sock could disintegrate like that. Anyway, I'm now fairly successfully filed the length of this down to hilt diameter. I did it much more quickly than the first one because I already had the experience, right? So now what I'm going to do is kind of round off this edge, because the hilt kind of bevels up from the pommel bevels up from the hilt. Right now it's just a square edge. So I'm going to take this triangular file without cutting too much of a groove in the rest of it, and very carefully just kind of round off the edge. I can't duplicate the angle very well. I mean, I could if I just kept at it forever, of the original pommel, but I can make it look like it's not just squared off. This pick is fairly hard, so I have to kind of push at it. I want to get all the way around, and then I'll check for symmetry here in just a second. And I will declare that to be not too bad. Not too bad. Okay. This pick right here, flat spotted, great. I have a flat spotted round toothpick. And then I'm going to cut this off like I did the last one, a distance back from the edge, from the end of the pommel, because I don't want it to be too small. I'm going to cut it a little closer than I did last time. I had to cut off quite a lot, file down quite a lot. And then I'm going to file down the back of it so that it's sort of rounded. Yeah, that toothpick went flying, and I found it. Why couldn't I find the sword blade before? Okay, and then the last bit is just filing down the back of the pommel so that it's not too fat and that the edges are rounded. After I'm done with this, then I'll contact cement it onto the model. That one is going to be the black one, because I've got bronze, red, blue, and green. And that'll be black, and then there's this other one that'll be something else yet again. I'm not sure what. Maybe silver. I have lots of silver metallics. That would be kind of interesting. I could do that. Off the edges, and then I will rotate it and try to make sure it's symmetric, like this. rotate it, and then you'll see that some sides are sticking out. Up there, it's not rounded. And then after I get this cemented on, contact cemented, and that seemed to work okay with the other one, I have time. I'm going to finish the green one. So I will actually be doing some painting right here at the end. I'm doing a shortened version. I'm doing like a half show today, a half stream, because, this is like a 5-day holiday weekend, right? 4-day holiday weekend. Even though I'm retired and I don't get days off, I should take a day off. But I wanted to get these fabrications done so that when I started working on the black dragonkin on Friday, I would have one to work on. And I also wanted to repair the green one because it was really just annoying when I broke the sword. It was like, really, why did that have to happen? Okay, well, this pommel isn't perfect, but it is adequate, and it will look like there is a pommel and a hilt on the sword, and there wasn't one before. So I'm using contact cement because it just grips right away. And the epoxy, which I used on the blade, the sword blade, takes quite a while to set up. And I don't want to be holding it forever. So I just need to get a little dab of that inside the hand here. And then get some on the end of this. And I wait the requisite minute or so for it to, like you do with contact cement, you let it wait for a bit, and then I just touch them together and it holds. And what I want to do is, there's that flat spot. I want that flat spot to not be on the front, but it'll be where it'll be. So when I touch these together, it'll be almost like instant crazy glue, whatever, cyanoacrylate, in that it grips right away, but it also doesn't harden right away. So I actually can manipulate it. Like I can rotate it and move it a little bit, but it holds right away, unlike the epoxy. It stays somewhat flexible, and I need to be aware of that. It holds, but this thing will bounce around. There. So now it's got a pommel. And you probably can't tell, because I did a really good job, is I replaced the bottom of the guard with a replacement guard before. And that's holding on too. So I did a major repair to the swords of these guys. And this one, okay, so these three are done. I'm going to put them carefully and safely away next to the keyboard, so when I use the keyboard I can knock them over. This one is going to be painted starting on Friday. Okay, now it looks all repaired, and so that one I'll be working on this on Friday. And the green one, I'm going to finish that today. And what I need to do is I need to paint the sword and the hilt. So I'm going to need the sword color. I've either been using duraluminum or dark aluminum, and I can't remember. I will say I'm using this one. I'm using duraluminum. Why? Because that's the one I've got. And I will need the green paints, because the pommel is painted the dark green, and the hilt is painted I think I was using sick green. It's light green. Where did sick green go? Pretty sure I used sick green. It'll be close enough. Yeah, so the guard, which I already did paint, and the sword, and the hilt. So there. I'm going to use a little tiny brush. I'm going to paint the hilt first, and there's little embellishments here and here on either side of the screen. Okay, there are these nice files that I can now put aside. We're going to see these for Submarine Wednesday, which is coming up on Wednesday. Okay. Could talk about that later, maybe. I don't know. Get my little palette out here. Get these out of the way. Have this and this. Just really mess everywhere. It's very important to keep your work surfaces clean and clear so that you don't knock things over, you don't bump into stuff, you don't break things. I can tell you that because I do that fairly often, and because I tend to do that, I feel justified in reminding people not to do what I just did. Very delicate little brushwork there in that I don't particularly want to knock it off. So I'm not going to touch it very hard. I'm using this little brush so that I don't get paint on places I don't want it. I'm going to paint the pommel after I paint the blade because I want this to dry a little bit. There's a little bit of an embellishment right there, kind of like a point. That's this lighter green color. There. There's the hilt. Okay, that came out all right. Get the green paint out of the brush. No, I'm going to go a little past noon because I want to finish this guy. And then that will be the end of relaxing painting with Dicing Pumpkins when I finish this green dragonkin. Let me get some of these other things out of the way. Reach over my work so that I increase my odds of breaking it. And I got the duraluminum here. This is declared to be that what I used? I actually think I used chainmail silver. Can't remember now. Well, if the blades are a little bit different in color, they're just going to be a little different in color, right? But I'm pretty sure I actually used this color. I'm going to use this instead of the Duralum. And again, I'm using a little brush because there's places where one surface comes in contact with the other. Yeah, there's a blemish in the sword there, where the one was cemented onto the other. So if one were to pay attention at all, one would see right there that there's a blob. That blob being the epoxy that's holding it together. Getting the dark green out again later, but I managed to get the silver paint onto the guard on the hilt. So I very carefully painted something I didn't want to paint. Yep. Oh, okay. It's like a cat hair or something. I got on there. Once it's painted, you can even see I got the blood guard groove on the blade, and it doesn't look too bad. You can see there, though, that's where the epoxy went. So you can see that, but, you know, if you're not right up on top of the model, up on top of it, you won't notice that. And then I got some no, it looks like that's part of the epoxy blob. Right there, and I'm not sure what to do with that. I think I'll just touch it up with a dark green. I want to do a little highlighting on the points of these things anyway. And I need to paint the toenails. Little bit of something hanging on to the end of the sword here. Like a little bit of fuzz that came in from the air there. So yeah, I mean, you can see that there's a flaw there, right there. But for the most part, it looks like it's holding a sword now, which it wasn't when I started the stream today. Okay. I'm going to do the toenails next. I want those to dry a little bit before I paint the base. I'm not using very much of this, so I'm going to just shake it up by hand. Not too bad. I should finish by like 12:15 or so, maybe 12:30. And then I'm going to stop. So I want to finish this just so I can finish it. So I need to paint the toes, and then I will paint the base and put some dark gray wash on the base as I've done with the others so that it doesn't look so monochrome. And then, yeah, so I still got a little bit to do. I have to paint the pommel and touch up the guards with the dark green paint. I'm going to put a little bit of highlighting on the tips of the spikes on its head. I should do more shading on this. Nicole suggested that I dry brush some pearlescent paint on the scales to highlight the scales, and I said, yes, that's a great idea. I can't do that. It's not that I won't. I would if I could. It's just that I can't. I can't do that. It's not something I can do. And so I'm not going to attempt something that I can't do. Paint the pommel, touch up the guards, and then put some just dark bits at the tips of the spines on its head. This whole green one is really quite dark in color, and so I could put like a light color as a highlight on the tips of those spines, but I'm not going to, because it's just going to be dark. These others had, there was like a little stripe. There was a raised edge on this part of the hilt, and I'm just going to do that with the brush. I'm just going to paint a stripe around it. There isn't any raised edge. I was not that skilled in my wood carving, but I can paint little stripes. Which gives it pretty much the same effect. And then I had gotten some silver paint on the guard here somewhere. There it is, right around the back there, where you can't, it's hard to see and hard to get to. Okay, so now I'm going to take little bits, just little bits of this darker paint, and do some pseudo dry brushing on the points of these things, just so that they're not exactly the same color as the body color. That's what I'm trying to do. Getting like a little bit of lint or something. Maybe that's just how the paint clings to the brush. Yeah, I've gone quiet here as I am attempting to do shading, and that's not something I'm real good at. Get too much paint on the brush, and all it does is it makes a mess. You get too little, and it doesn't actually go on the surface. So there is an attempt. That was an attempt to do some shading on the little spikes at the top of its head. I'd like there to be a little bit more. But it's not, I don't know, the combination of the paint and the brush is not cooperating here. Bit more cooperation than I was getting before. Okay, well, the pommel's done. The hilt, it's there. It's done. So I'm going to just paint the base now. The base is neutral gray with a dark gray wash. To get a little bit different brush out this time. Just something that holds a little more paint because there's a fairly large surface area there. That's the one. It's got a little point on it that I can use to get between and around the toes. But it's also got a flat surface that I can use to paint the larger area. seemed to have one of those little ball bearings in it. Probably got tossed out with the last jar of this gray that we used. But yeah, it should work. See here that I used speed paint on the skin, and the speed paint, at least the blue and the red, both kind of dissolved into the acrylic as it went on. Sure if that's going to happen with the green again or not. We will see. Use a fine pointed brush to brush up to the bottoms of the feet and between the toes, and the same will be true around the tail. You can keep it kind of horizontal and get the paint up to, but not really too much over the rest of it. And then I might just go to a larger brush to finish this. I'm not sure. This fine tip brush will paint the rest of it pretty slowly, it looks like. It might be okay. Let me get the edges first. It's always important to get the contact points between one color and the other done first, and carefully, as careful as one can be here. Get the area in between, because it's hard to reach. And I'm not minding brush marks here. I want the paint to look uneven. So if it doesn't level perfectly, that's actually a feature and not a bug on the base here. Okay, well, I'm just gonna spread this around using the side of the brush. Get a lot of paint on it. Just finish this thing off. And then let it dry just a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfectly dry because I want the wash to look uneven as well. You want to at least cover the surface, right? Use the same brush for the wash. Get the edges. I've used a different brush for the wash. I'm going to go back to that. This brush is, I'm just finishing this with this because it's full of paint already, and this way I only have to clean one brush. But this isn't going to work for the wash that well. So I think I can remember, I sort of remember the one I used before. It was one of the red-handled ones. Okay, so we'll clean this off, let that dry, try not to knock it over again. This brush cleans pretty well, unlike some of the others that hold a lot of paint. Yeah, sort of let that dry a little bit. Way over there so I don't bang into it, hopefully. Yeah, let's see if I can find this brush would work. All the brushes got put nicely out of the way over here. They are nicely out of the way, but a little hard to reach. This brush, I think, would work. This is a little too big. Pens and brushes and things are there. So I'm letting this dry just a little bit. What I said I was going to do was take the remnant of this weapon off of this model. And I'm going to do that. I mean, I would have to do a blade and 2 guards and a pommel. I mean, it'd be a major reconstruction. So it's just not going to be holding a weapon. Okay? And I'm going to do that with these files. I'm going to take this kind of triangular one, and I'm going to attempt to file. It looks like it's attached. It's like attached to the shoulder there. So I'm going to have to file that down. But what I want to do is get it off of the hand, so I'm just going to file away at it right along the edge of the hand here until it's gone. I could use a knife, an X-Acto knife, and try to break it off or cut it off, but this stuff is really brittle and is unpredictable. Okay, this isn't the best way to do this. The best way to do this might be with the edge, with the side of one of these, like just saw it off. That's a great sound, huh? Kind of annoying. I hope you like it. But it's coming along. It's almost through. Ooh, it just snapped right off. That's pretty cool. So it came off of the shoulder cleanly. And yeah, he's just raising his fist now. Hey, whatever you're doing, keep at it. Or I don't like you, or whatever it's saying. It looks better without little chunks of a weapon than it did with little chunks of a weapon. So there's some little stuff, little bits that shouldn't be there. And clean this up, and then this one's ready to. I don't think I ever primed this one. Did I? I don't know. Let me compare. Get these bits off. Yeah, this one's never been primed. The color is really close, but I can spray some primer on it now. And then this will be the little bits of stuff on here that shouldn't be there. I want to get those off before I prime it. when it comes out of the rosin printer, sometimes there's just these little support strings or just some little extra strings that didn't come off cleanly originally. But yeah, I'll slap some primer on this one, and I'm going to be painting the black one on Friday, and that'll take, at the pace that I go, if you're familiar with the pace that I move, that will take like almost the entire stream. I have lots of time between now and Friday though, so I can prime this one in the meantime. And then try to decide. I think, maybe I will make it silver. Really shiny, just shiny silvery skin and shiny armor. And it'll be, hurt your eyes to look at it. Yep, dark gray. This was a brand new bottle of gray wash because I used up the other one, finishing the last one I did, doing the red one. So this one hasn't been mixed yet, so I'm going to give it a go. And that'll be the last thing I do, is put the wash on the base of this green dragonkin. I want to thank everybody who joined in, either today or on YouTube later. Really appreciate your viewership. If you'd like to be a follower, okay, and we have a new follow, thank you so much for becoming a follower. That is always really appreciated. If you'd like to become a sponsor, I guess that's something you can do. That would be terrific too. And if you really, really like what you see, you're invited to go to patreon.com/diceanddungeons, that's Dice and Dungeons, and become a patron. And if you become a patron, you get access to some really cool stuff related to our D&D stream, and our D&D streams with the live chats 3 Sundays a month, and older episodes, previously streamed episodes, can be viewed on YouTube, or you can check them out as a podcast. And since we as characters are performing, not just playing, it's pretty entertaining. I have to say so myself, being one of them. I play Ulseth Ralph, a Furbog fighter who is not dumb, okay? Intelligence is pretty high, but is very literal, having been raised almost as an orphan by an ancient elf, member of an order of Remarden that nobody ever remembers. So it gets quite literal. We have a lot of fun tracking down pretzels and croissants, and occasionally we'll get into hideous combat situations where the last time around we almost died. That was unpleasant. But it was pretty dramatic. We got less frivolous. We were not laughing and joking about almost dying in the sewers. But anyway, yes, 3 Sundays, Dice and Dungeons does a D&D stream. That's how we started. And this stream got started because we produce our own dungeon tiles, which you might see. You can see some of the stuff we've done that we've used on our stream. So yeah, this stream started as, since we're painting all the dungeon tiles and minifigs anyway, why not stream it? Why not? All it cost was a little ring camera that constantly shows up in front of my face because that's where I sit, and I never can get things arranged well. I'm just not good at that, but it's all part of the rustic charm. The unscripted charm of relaxing painting with dice and dungeons is the work that I'm doing on camera or not? Am I on camera or not? Is the camera on me or not? Yeah, anyway. So this, Relaxing Painting with Dice and Dungeons, streams Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from more or less 10 until more or less 2. It's ending early today because it's supposed to be a holiday tomorrow, and I'm supposed to be having in my retirement when weekends don't really matter. Anyway, I was hoping for like a 4-day weekend, but anyway, yeah, I was fabricating stuff. So if you hadn't seen it, the sword and hilt of this model, you can still see a little bit of glue joint, we're actually missing at the beginning of this stream, and those are now toothpicks, but it looks okay. Came out all right. So let me put some of this stuff away. Like I'll put these brushes over here and put this paint back in the paint holder and put my glasses on so I can see, stretch a little bit. Yeah, so I have been painting dragonkin. There were 6 of these that were printed. I have completed 4 of the 6, which you are seeing top down. I'm not going to lay them down. I don't want to break off any more pieces. Okay. But I have a bronze dragonkin. Here, let me do it this way. That was cool. It was actually kind of smooth. And raise it up a little bit. Talk about expert camera work, huh? Yeah, there. Did the bronze one. Okay, and then I did a blue one. And then I did a red one. And the red one initially started off with pink armor with red edging, but it looked really not, it just really didn't look good. It was a bad idea. So it now has red armor with pink edging. And then I just finished the green one with a reconstituted toothpick created sword and hilt, which came out not too bad, I have to admit. I mean, if these guys show up on our stream, that'll look okay. And then there's one that isn't painted yet, but primed, and that will be the black dragonkin. And then this one, which has no weapon at all, but is just cheering everybody on, I'm going to prime this one, and I have to decide what color to make it. I think there's like silver, gold. Gold would be too close to the bronze. So I'm thinking of silver, kind of silver colored, which would make it would just be eye dazzling. It would be really kind of like you don't want to look at it. But I have many different shades of silvery paints. I got a whole set of the Vallejo metal colors. So it goes all the way from really shiny chrome and silver to really dark tinted steel. So I could paint the skin one color and do, like the bicolor that I've done on the armor so far. I could do that with the same kind of trim pattern. And then the 2 little bays could be like steel or duraluminum or gunmetal or something. Yeah. So the theme I've been kind of going with is dark armor with light highlights. So the same thing will happen with this guy. The armor will probably be made. Well, I have to see what color the speed paint gray turns out to be, so I can kind of, work around that. But I'm guessing it'll be like a dark gray with a light gray trim. I also have a really dark, kind of really, really dark gray called NATO Black that could be used. So anyway, 4 of them are done. Look at that. 4 are completed and 2 are left. And this one, you can see that had a replacement hilt. And actually that guard down there, the bottom guard, is a replacement that I took off this one. And that came out okay too. So far I have, my repairs have worked out pretty well, and I'm hoping not to need to do that anymore. Wednesday, Submarine Wednesday. For those of you who are not regular viewers, I have been working on a mid-1960s vintage Renwall cutaway, the George Washington, and it fired Polaris missiles, the first submarine-launched ballistic missiles, very, very slowly plodding along, getting that done. The huge amount of detail, parts don't fit. It gives me tremendous opportunity to whine and complain about what needs to be done to make things work. I've gotten the mess hall and the galley and the bunk room done, and they look pretty good. I test fitted them. They didn't fit. I filed and sanded and got them to fit, and then put the control room floor, which is the deck above, in, and that sort of fit, but then the pieces didn't align with in front, and so I have a fabrication challenge where I need to add 1/10 of an inch to one side of the deck and cut 1/10 of an inch off the other side. But I'm not going to be doing that right away, because I am painting the detail of all the little bits and pieces, the tiny bits and pieces, which make the hilt of this sword look giant in comparison. So I'm going to be painting the detail of all the stuff that goes onto the deck before I fabricate the adjustment to the deck that needs to be done. Once that's done, if I can get that adjustment done, then the parts, if they can all be fit together again, will go into place, and the first, I'd say 30% maybe in terms of length, but half in terms of how much stuff needs to be done will be done. And it will actually look, I do know from having test fitted these things together, it's going to look really pretty cool once I get that done. But there's just so much detail painting and fabrication of parts and adjustments that need to be made in the meantime that I hope it's not too terribly frustrating for the people who are watching it, but it's a challenge. Anyway, this has been relaxing toothpick whittling and some little bits of painting at the end with Dyson Dungeons Monday, shortened edition. I'll be signing off soon. Those of you who are in the States, have a good 4th of July holiday. Those of you who are outside of the States, you don't really care about that, but thank you for watching anyway, and I will see you Wednesday for the continuation of Control Room challenges on Submarine Wednesday. Thank you all again. Thank you for being a follower. Thank you for being a sponsor. Thank you very much if you decide to become a patron. And join us again on Submarine Wednesday and then Friday from 10 more or less until 2 more or less with a break in between, Eastern Daylight Time. See you.